Hi everyone.
Hi everyone.
I'm going to introduce you to the idea of doing presentations online through an exercise that I'm going to call
PowerPoint Karaoke.
Now, PowerPoint Karaoke is basically the idea that you have to give a talk to a PowerPoint presentation that you've never seen before.
This can be a very useful way of practicing your presentation skills online.
One of the beauties of online presentation is that it can help you to review what it is that you've done and improve it. We get
Real teacher reflexivity.
when you're able to actually see the results of what you've done. So what I'm going to do in this session is give you the opportunity to do your own
PowerPoint Karaoke.
and then you're going to be able to have a look at the presentations that you've done and see how you might do them better. What I'm also going to, hopefully, be able to demonstrate is the fact that online learning doesn't have to be
Terrible.
the whole business of
being hunched over a computer
and trying to think,
where do I click, what do I do, how do I contribute to this session?
all of these questions need not be completely
Alienating. Boring.
uninteresting and so on. So this is going to be a very active session. It's going to be a session where I'm going to pick on each of you
Individually to
have a go at.
PowerPoint Karaoke.
So I'm going to have a go at one of these. Here's the first slide. Exponential growth. Growth is going up very fast. We are living in exponential times. You can only think of the cost of petrol, for example, or the rising in unemployment, or anything like that. Okay, so yes, people are using Google a lot. They do lots of Google searches each month. Where were these questions asked? Who went to Google first? No, I don't mean that. Sorry. The number of text messages. We're sending loads of texts. I've got an iPhone and I just send texts to guys about all the time.
My God, this is terrible.
What's wrong? What's the problem? What am I not doing? Maybe it's because I'm not actually
In touch with my audience.
Maybe it's because I'm not
Leading.
the audience that I'm talking to, because I'm trying to do this to a faceless audience through a computer. So how can I find a way of becoming
More in touch with my audience.
Perhaps the best way of doing that is to get a feel for the experience of being somebody who watches the computer screen and watches one of these presentations. Let's have a look at somebody who's doing this all the time and has made himself very famous at teaching an internet audience. Salman Khan of Khan Academy.
I've now supplied you with two definitions of the state variable entropy, and it's S for entropy. The thermodynamic definition said that the change in entropy is equal to the heat added to a system divided by the temperature at which the heat is added. So if the temperature is changing while we add the heat, which is normally the case, we're going to have to do a little bit of calculus. And then you can view this as a mathematical or the statistical or the combinatorial definition of entropy. And this essentially says that entropy is equal to some constant times the natural log of the number of states a system can take on. And this is this case when all the states are equally probable, which is a pretty good assumption. If you have just a gazillion molecules that could have a gazillion states, you can assume they're all roughly equally likely. There's a slightly more involved definition if they had different probabilities, but we won't worry about that now. So given that we've seen these two definitions, it's a good time to introduce you to the second law of thermodynamics. Second law. And that's this. It's a pretty simple law, but it explains a whole range of phenomena. It tells us that the change in entropy for the universe, is when any process is undergone is always greater than or equal to 0. So that tells us that when anything ever happens in the universe, the net effect is that there's more entropy in the universe itself. And this seems very deep, and it actually is. So let's see if we can apply it to see why it explains or why it makes sense relative to some examples.
So Khan is able to lead his audience, partly because he's
Absolutely in control of the technology that he's using.
using his electronic and digital tablet, which he draws on, and as he does that, he explains his thinking. Now, it may be that he does his voiceovers after he's done his drawings. That's certainly how I do my drawings. It's how I've done this presentation. But he uses his voice very well. He's always thinking,
How is this going to sound when I play it back?
how will I enjoy watching it? And that's how he's able to get a real insight into the experience of people actually watching his presentation. When we do PowerPoint karaoke, we're going to try and reproduce that kind of experience. We're going to try and get an insight into what it might be for someone to actually watch our presentation. And by doing PowerPoint karaoke, we can actually see our own presentations back and get a feel for what we do well and what we don't do so well. Let's have a go.